Welcome to the Ultimate Mal and Solwyn guide. This is going to be a super detailed guide. We're going to cover things like what happens when you give different tiered crystals to different Veilwyns, as well as what is the best way to level up your Veilwyn for transformation. We're also going to cover the basics like taming and abilities. Feel free to jump around to any chapter that interests you, but let's get started. Solwyns and Malwyns evolve from Veilwyns. So the very first step in this process is taming Veilwyns. I actually recommend taming a bunch of them and then breeding them together. This is because the Sol and Malwyns will inherit the stats that you have from the Veilwyn that you want to evolve. Taming Veilwyns and breeding them together will get you the stats that you want. When you see a Veilwyn that you want to tame, make sure you crouch and then put away any tools or weapons that you may be holding. When a Veilwyn sees a player, it makes a replicant of itself. What you want to do is approach each Veilwyn that you see in the area to see if it's the true Veilwyn or one of the replicants. We're approaching this one here and we don't get any prompt to tame, so that this is one of the copies or duplicates. Stay calm and crouched and approach another Veilwyn in the area. This one has a +2. We know that there are 2 replicants, but this is not the one that we want to tame. When you find the original Veilwyn, it will have a prompt that you can claim. So you hit E or Y on a controller and you'll be able to tame a Veilwyn. It's actually really simple. Things can go easily wrong when taming a Veilwyn. Sometimes when I pull out a weapon or if I have to be aggressive to another creature in the area, the Veilwyns quickly attack and they will melt you so fast you won't even see it coming. Veilwyns actually have a lot of amazing abilities, but what we're most interested in to get a Solwyn or a Malwyn is to give our guys an adventure experience, which we can do by placing them into companion mode. To enable companion mode, hold down the radial wheel, select the puppy with the heart, and that puts you into companion mode. Once in companion mode, it gets the adventure buff right away. A lot of guides will tell you that the adventure buff comes from the Solwyn taming, but that's not correct. You can start building your adventure percentage right away. Whether or not you want a Solwyn or a Malwyn, the taming process starts the same way. Now, to turn your Veilwyn into a Solwyn or a Malwyn, what you'll need to do is find one of the wild Solwyns on the map. Solwyns are found in several locations across the map, and you'll typically find them in these glowing enchanted forest areas. You'll find several in this location here. The latitude is 55.4 and 40.3. The next location is this enchanted forest area far in the north of the map. I have found consistently high-level Solwyns in this area. The coordinates here are latitude 17.3 and longitude 11. Up north there is another enchanted forest area. I don't find Solwyns here as much as the other spot, but they do spawn here. The coordinates here are 27.7 and longitude is 4.1. The next location is this glowy forest here. It's a small area on the side of a mountain, but you will find Solwyn here. This is our location on the map. The latitude is 42.7, longitude is 12.6. In the south of the map, you'll find another enchanted forest area with Solwyns. The location here is 89.2 and 46.9. There is a small patch of forest and spawn area in the southeastern corner of the map. The location here is 97.9 and 68.1. There is another spawn even further in the southeast. You'll find several Solwyn spawns in this area. The location on the map is 93.6 and 94.6. Once you've found the Solwyn you want to tame, you'll need to approach it, and there's 2 things you need to remember before approaching the Solwyn. One is that you must have your Veilwyn with you, and it should be on companion mode. The second is that you shouldn't be riding a tame or have a tame anywhere near you, so park your flyer away from where the Solwyn is. Solwyns are super aggressive and you'll often find them fighting other creatures. In this case, it's best just to let the fight finish and hope that the Solwyn you want to tame wins instead of getting involved with your own tame. Before you even approach the Solwyn, you may want to get rid of threatening creatures in the area to make the taming go smoother. The next thing I recommend you do is move your Veilwyn whistle to your hotbar and remember what slot you have it saved in. For me, it's the number 4 slot. If you can't find your Veilwyn, remember that you can use your whistle to call your companion to you and it will teleport right over. Once your companion is near you, it will start a mini game with the Solwyn. You'll see a curiosity percentage above the Solwyn and a symbol of what it wants you to do. It's going to ask you to do one of 4 things. 3 of these are emotes you can get your Veilwyn to do with the whistle: beg, play, and pet. And the fourth one is to call friends. Every time you do the correct action, the curiosity meter will go up 10%. For the team to work properly, you'll need to get every emote correct. So what I actually suggest you do prior to your taming is to practice on the emote wheel. You can practice when you're not in front of a Solwyn. Just remember that the emotes are in the top left. There are 3 of them. Beg is on the left, pet is at the bottom, play is on the right side. Call friends is in the bottom right of the radial wheel. One thing to remember with call friends is there's about an 8-second cooldown on it. If you get several call friends in a row, sometimes it can make the taming a little bit trickier. When you reach 100% curiosity, you can then approach the Solwyn, hit the E prompt on keyboard to get yourself a Vulpite crystal. You'll need these crystals later to convert your Veilwyns to Solwyns or Malwyns. You'll notice in the bottom right corner a new buff has come up as well. This debuff is called Solwyn Generosity, and if you successfully complete the tame, the time is 1 hour before you can go to another Solwyn, approach it, do the minigame, and get a crystal successfully. The taming doesn't always go as smooth as you would like it to. I've had a couple of issues. Number 1, the tame being interrupted by an aggressive creature, and then while you're fighting off that aggressive creature, you miss your emote and then the taming doesn't work and you get put on cooldown. The second thing is that I've had a couple of Solwyns that have been bugged. I did all of the emotes perfectly. I got to about 70% and then all of a sudden I was put on cooldown. Now occasionally you'll get an emote wrong. If you get more than one wrong, you'll often be put on a cooldown as well. The cooldown that you get when taming goes bad is only 15 minutes, but it's the same icon that you'll see at the bottom of the screen. It just goes for 900 seconds this time. When we tamed the level 25, it gave us a primitive Vulpite crystal. There are different tiers of crystals that you can get. The level of the Solwyn that you approach and do the minigame with determines the tier of the crystal that you will get. I tamed a level 50 and got a ramshackle crystal. I tamed a level 75 and got an apprentice crystal. A level 90 gave me a journeyman crystal. A level 105 gave me a mastercraft crystal, and I did a 135 and that gave me an ascended crystal. One thing I've noted from other players as well as my own experience is that to get an ascended crystal, the Solwyn must be level 135 or above. You can place them in a trap and do the minigame while they are trapped. If you find a really high level, you may want to do this so that all of your tribe mates or friends on the server will be able to get an ascended crystal. There is a current exploit out right now where players are uncompanioning their Veilwyns, dying or respawning in another bed, coming back, putting them back on companion mode and getting infinite crystals that way. But I have a feeling that this will be patched in the very immediate future. Once you get the crystal, the taming part is not complete. Remember the adventure buff? What you need to do now is to get your Veilwyn up to 100% for their adventure buff. So what is the best way to do that? And that is with getting XP for your player. And let me show you. I wanted to know, does the XP you need to get the adventure buff come from the player themselves? Can you up your adventure buff by using a tame to kill things? Or do you need to use the Veilwyn to kill something to get the adventure buff to go higher? So I set up a little experiment. The first thing I did is spawn in a level 100 Rex and kill it with a shotgun. My Veilwyn prior to this had 0% adventure bonus, so I wanted to see how much its bonus went up after I killed the Rex. And if you look here, it says 1.4% for killing a level 100 Rex, which is pretty small. For the next part of the experiment, I duplicated the Veilwyn so it had lots of companions and then spawned in another level 100 Rex and had the Veilwyns kill the Rex. I then went and checked the Veilwyn's adventure buff and it's exactly the same level. It's 1.40. This means when the Veilwyn killed the Rex, it didn't gain any XP for its adventure buff. But what about if we use one of our own tames to kill the Rex? Do we still get some adventure buff? So again, I spawned in another level 100 Rex and then killed it with my Therizino. When I rechecked the Veilwyn's adventure buff, it has gone up to 2.1099%. If we remember that prior to this, it was at 1.4066%, this means that it has gone up by 0.7033. This is exactly half of the amount of adventure bonus we got when we killed the Rex by hand with the shotgun. So you can up your adventure buff by killing things with tames, but it will take 50% longer. Given that the best outcome was when the player killed something, I wanted to see if killing some of the alpha revenants on the map gave you the best adventure points. And I have to tell you that the results of this are really disappointing and not worth your time. Checking my Veilwyn here, adventure is 0.24. This raptor comes in, we kill that. We kill the level 20 alpha revenant, and then we check it again. And our adventure buff barely went up to 0.32, so killing alpha revenants is not worth your time. Keeping in mind that it is the player killing a creature that gives you the most adventure buff, so I found the best way to get your adventure buff up is to kill your own baby creatures for breeding. So if we check our adventure buff here, we are at 0.328. And we are going to kill a bunch of baby Rexes that we have that are pretty high level in our base to see where the XP goes from here. Just killing one of these baby Rexes took our Veilwyn up to 3%, which is a great boost. I then went and killed all the other babies in the base. There was a total of 9 babies here. When we take a look at our companion again, it's gone up to 26 adventure buff, so I highly recommend making sure your companion mode is enabled and then breeding up a bunch of creatures and killing them at your base to get your experience up. This is probably the easiest way to get experience points really fast. I know that Karchars don't spawn on the Lost Colony map, but when transfers open and you can kill baby Karchars, one baby Karch will give you 75% of the adventure bonus that you need by just killing one, so these are the fastest way to get to 100%. Now on official servers, I am aware that you don't get XP from killing your own baby creatures, so you'll have to find another way, and what I recommend for official players is to do the missions. When doing the missions, you want to make sure that you get the final kill on the boss. You could either do that on a gamma with your player, or you could use one of your creatures. Creatures generally are a little bit safer. That should give you a good amount of adventure points. Of course, higher levels like alpha and beta will definitely give you a lot more adventure experience. When I killed the Thrall bounty hunter here, I got about 5% adventure bonus, so if you manage to get both bosses, you should be able to get pretty decent XP from doing the missions. Now we have our companions to 100% adventure buff, and we have all the crystals we'll need for transformation. Now it's your turn to make the decision. Do you want to make a Solwyn or do you want to make a Malwyn? Malwyns require an extra step of crystal conversion, so many people on their first time will go for a Solwyn. To complete the taming process for a Solwyn, you get your crystal, place it in the inventory of your Veilwyn, hit E to consume, and then a little portal opens up and out pops your Solwyn. My main interest with Solwyn taming is what about the different levels of crystal? What happens to your Veilwyn if you use a primitive crystal or a higher tiered crystal? Does it really matter? And the answer is both yes and no. And let me show you. So to test this, I did a little experiment. I got my Veilwyn and then cloned it 6 times. So each Veilwyn had the exact same stats. And then I'm going to transfigure each one into a Solwyn using the different tiers of crystals to see what happens to the stats of the Veilwyn when it turns into a Solwyn. When I gave the primitive Vulpite crystal to my 217 Veilwyn, it evolved into a level 55 Solwyn, and you can see here that the stat points are a lot lower. The next level of crystal is the Ramshackle crystal, and when I fed this to my Veilwyn to get a Solwyn, this one evolved into a level 118, so still much lower in stats and level than the original Veilwyn we had. Next is the Apprentice crystal. When we fed this to our Solwyn and got the evolution, this one turned into a level 173 Solwyn, so again still lower than the original Veilwyn and with lower stat points overall. The next crystal is the Journeyman crystal, and this is where things start to get really interesting. When we evolved our Solwyn, it turned into a level 252, which is actually a much higher level than the original Veilwyn that we had. Even though this is a much higher level Solwyn, if we look at the individual stats, these are the exact same levels that we had in the original Veilwyn. When I fed the Mastercraft crystal to the Veilwyn and got the Solwyn, again it's got the exact same stats as the original Veilwyn and is level 216, which is the same level as the original Veilwyn. When I gave the final Ascendant crystal to the Veilwyn to evolve it up to a Solwyn, this is where things don't appear to change too much. This is exactly the same level, 216, and has the exact same stats as both the Apprentice and the Mastercraft. So there doesn't seem to be much of a difference between the 3 highest tiers of crystals, and I have had other players on the server I'm on say the same thing. If you want to turn to the dark side and get yourself a Malwyn instead of a Solwyn, there is one extra step that you need to do in order to do the transformation. The starting process is the same. You will need the Vulpite crystals and you'll need your Veilwyns to be at 100% adventure bonus. To get yourself a Malwyn, you'll need a Blood Forge. Now the tricky part is Blood Forges can only be crafted in a tech replicator, and you can't get a tech replicator without beating the boss. However, you can get a Blood Forge as a reward from doing some of the defense missions in the game. So if you want to get one that way, you might have to farm missions until you can get one. You can also use the red element you get from these missions to power the Blood Forge, or you can use a tech generator. This does tend to make Malwyns a bit more of a late game tame than the Solwyn. In order to get a Malwyn, you need to turn your Vulpite crystal into a corrupted Vulpite crystal. And you do this in the Blood Forge, and let me show you how. In order to get the corrupted Vulpite crystal, you'll need to get your pristine crystal and mix it with red element shards in the Blood Forge. These come at different costs. The primitive one will cost you 10 red element shards, Ramshackles 50, Apprentice 100, Journeyman 250, a Masterclass will be 500 shards, and an Ascendant one is 1000 shards. When considering this, please keep in mind that with the Solwyns, there was no difference with the Mastercraft and Ascended and Journeyman crystals, and is it going to be the same for the Malwyn, and can you save yourself red element shards? You can get red element as a reward for doing the defense outposts. Then you can break it down in the Blood Forge into red element shards. You can also make your own red element shards by breaking down regular element, which you can get by harvesting light poles, and mixing it with blood packs. Once you have all your red element shards, you right click on the Vulpite crystal and then convert it to a corrupted crystal. You'll notice that the Vulpite crystals change color and they now say corrupted Vulpite instead of pristine. In order to tame the Malwyn, it's the same process. You put the corrupted Vulpite crystal into its inventory, hit the E button to consume, a little portal will open up, and then you will have yourself a Malwyn. And I can confirm that the results for the Malwyn were very similar to the Solwyn in that the Apprentice, Mastercraft and Ascendant all gave the same level Malwyn. It was a 216 for me. Therefore, you can save yourself a lot of red element shard by using a lower tiered crystal in order to evolve your Malwyn. The Solwyn saddle is unlocked at level 58 and it is crafted in the smithy. The Malwyn saddle is unlocked at level 65 and is also crafted in the smithy. When riding both the Malwyn and the Solwyn, you can equip weapons while riding, so you could use these for things such as taming other creatures. But which one is best? I personally like the Malwyn. I think the Solwyn's a little bit gimmicky and I feel like I won't use it as much, but let's take a look at their skills and you can let me know in the comments which one you think is best. The strength of the Solwyn, I think, particularly lies in travel and traversing. If you hit the jump button and kind of bounce across the map, you can travel very quickly. Like the Thylacoleo, if you hold down the jump button when you are on a cliff, you are able to climb vertically. When you pair this with an ice bridge, this can be really helpful for scaling some of the large mountains. If you hold down that jump button while you're sprinting, you can slide for quite a while. It's only a few seconds on flat ground, but if you're going downhill, you can slide for quite a while. I think one of the coolest abilities is the ice bridges. You need to tab over to it and then hit the tertiary button to get the ice bridge to activate. You can only do one ice bridge at a time. Once you put a next one, the one behind it destroys, but it allows you to get up and down from very high places places really quickly and easily. One potential very good use of the ice bridge is being able to traverse the upper city without being spotted by too many enemies. I was able to do this quite easily on single player by building across the city, but some of my friends who play on a server were not able to ice bridge across the city because it didn't allow structures. So I think the ability to do this depends on your game settings. The Solwyn is not particularly strong at combat. Its primary attack is generally quite weak. The secondary cone of ice attack is a bit stronger and it does freeze your enemy, which can be helpful. I find that it has a really long cooldown. One of its abilities is the glacial power buff, so you can tab across to that and use your tertiary attack to use it. After you activate it, all it does is give you increased melee damage for one hit after. I think it would be a lot better if it was a buff that lasted for a few seconds. The glacial swiftness is another ability that helps with traversing. I did a little race here against myself from this billboard to my base. I found I was able to get there 4 seconds faster with glacial swiftness activated, so this just helps you with that traversing ability. Glacial endurance gives you about 1 or 2 seconds of health boost, which is not a lot when you compare it to the Veilwyn's ability, and it also helps with stamina reduction so that you can either run a lot longer or fight a lot longer with your Solwyn. Another reason why the Solwyn is such a great travel mount is that it really doesn't seem to take too much fall damage. You can see this leap here, it doesn't hurt us at all. It does give you a hypothermic insulation buff, but this only occurs when you are next to an allied or one of your own other Solwyns. When you move away from that other Solwyn, you do lose the buff. One ability that Solwyns have that the Malwyns do not have is the hideaway ability. You need to access this by the radio menu, and you can just press the little portal symbol and your Solwyn will be gone. But it is in your inventory without a cryopod, which is kind of cool. To get it back out of the portal, just activate the key that it was on and then they come back. This is not available on the Malwyn. As for the Malwyn abilities, I really like this team. I think it's a little bit different, but I enjoy the combat that you have with it. One of the first things I noticed about the Malwyn was actually that it comes with a buff itself. And when you take a look at this buff, this is called Lost Bioengineering. And it says that it makes lost forces harder to find you. I didn't really feel that this was super helpful. When I went to a lost forces, they got pretty mad at me right away. However, I found in the wild that really aggressive creatures, I could run up right next to them like this Kano and they wouldn't aggro on me. So I feel like it's working on wild creatures in the map, but I don't see a huge benefit for the lost creatures. I felt like they attacked me pretty much as soon as they saw me. Just like the Solwyn, the Malwyn has the ability to do a slide. The Malwyn's is meant to slide better on water. I don't know if I ran into a bit of an issue here, but maybe this is a glitch. I went flying up into the air, so use this with a lot of caution because I took a massive amount of fall damage when I landed. I was able to slide better on water on this canal, but please use this with caution. I think it could be a little bit buggy. I did notice that the Malwyn does not have as much of a detailed HUD. It doesn't give you the names of the attacks down the bottom. Similar to the Solwyn, use Control-C to cycle through those attacks. Also, there's no HUD on the right-hand side telling you what to do. If you want to use those attacks, you just use the secondary to get the I-beam of that variety. The first attack is called Sanguine Malediction. This attack shoots a persistent red beam at your target, and the red beam itself doesn't do any damage. On the bottom HUD, you will see a number going up. You can get up to 20 stacks of this attack. This is a debuff that reduces the target's ability to heal, and then when you use your primary attack, it grants you life steal, so you can suck life back into your health pool from your target and it can't heal itself. The next ability is Sanguine Vulnerability, and this shoots a blue beam and also stacks up to level 20. Just like before, the blue beam doesn't actually do anything, but it prepares the target to take more damage. So it increases the damage the target will take with each stack, and you can get up to actually a 200% increase in attack, but that's if you're using more than one Malwyn. I'm going to kill a mammoth here, both without this ability and with this ability on to see the difference. This is our first victim here. When we bite it with just the regular attack, we're doing 215 damage. So we attack another mammoth here. This time we have full 20 stacks of damage increase on the mammoth. mammoth prior to the attack, and when we bite we do 236 damage to the mammoth, which is quite a bit more. The third debuff attack on the bottom is the Sanguine Fatigue. This drains your target's stamina, and at 20 stacks it can ground flyers and prevent them from taking off. I don't see this being hugely used in a PvE mode, but I can see this being used in PvP during attacks from other players, using it more as a defense. Testing it here to see if I could ground this RG. I find this one a little bit awkward. It's kind of hard to aim up at the sky and maintain contact of the beam with the RG, but we were able to ground it on a couple of occasions. You can see it plummeting out of the sky here. What I think makes the Malwyn particularly powerful is that actually you can mix up these stacks. You can see that this Rhino here has 20 stacks of the Sanguine Malediction, and now we are applying Sanguine Vulnerability and then attacking it. This means we can do life steal and increase damage at the same time. The last ability is a teleport attack where the Malwyn will pop into a little red portal, pop up and do increased damage. Now this one is not an attack that you can select, but keep an eye on the far right HUD screen. You will see that light up when you have applied enough stacks. Then you can hit the C key or the tertiary key, and that will do the teleport strike. I kind of like that not much aggroes to the Malwyn, and then we can plan our attacks with all these debuffs before we even strike our target. And just in case you're wondering, Solwyns are breedable. They go into a gestation and give birth to a live young. But I don't think it is worth breeding your Solwyns together, because what they do pop out instead of a baby Solwyn is a baby Veilwyn. You can just breed your Veilwyns together. That is much easier. My name is Krabby and I make really accurate guides for Ark. If you like these kind of videos, you can subscribe for more or click on this one right here.